Hey there, Sports History fans. Arnie Chapman here from the Sports History Network to share with you an awesome announcement. Now dig on this. 4 of our amazing podcasts have clinched spots in the final round of the Sports Podcast Awards, and we need your support to take home the trophy. First up, we've got Basketball History 101 driving the lane in the Best Basketball category. Then on deck, we've got Orville Mulligan Sports Writer. He's cracking up the competition in the Best Sports Comedy category. Marty's Illegal Stick is dominating the ice next in the Best Hockey category. And last but not least, we have Wrestling with Heels on powerbombing its way to victory in the Best Wrestling category. Now, again, we're counting on you to cast your vote and help out these incredible podcasters secure their well-deserved recognition. It's super easy. All you gotta do is head over to the dedicated landing page. That's at sportshistorynetwork.com/vote. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/vote. Now, let's take another look at sports yesteryear with this episode brought to you by, of course, the Sports History Network.
This is Tim McCoy, Executive Director of Pennsylvania West Soccer Association. You're listening to the Total Sports Recall Podcast, a part of the Sports History Network. Now, here's your host, Harv Aronson.
Welcome to Total Sports Recall. A few weeks back, my guest was Pittsburgh basketball star Beebe Flannery. Beebe played for Valley High School in the Burgh, and one of the rival schools he played against was Mohawk High School. Beebe had told me there was one player he felt that it was the toughest guard he ever played against in high school. That man is my guest on this show today, and his name is Tim Glass. Before I bring Tim onto the show, let us look at the career of Tim Glass. Tim attended Mohawk High School from 1973 to 1975. During his basketball career there, he scored 1,661 points in 67 games, playing for a career average of 24.8 points per game, which still stands as the Mohawk record. In his senior year, he consistently poured in 26 to 46 points every game, and in Mohawk's sectional games, his average was 35 points per game. In 1975, he was named to the All-State team in Pennsylvania. Following high school, Tim would play for Austin Peay University in Clarksville, Tennessee. While there, he only played in 10 games, and unfortunately, a broken wrist ended his first season. At that time, Austin Peay was among the top 25 teams in the country. Tim then transferred to Westminster College in his home state of Pennsylvania, where he played for 2.5 years and scored over 1,200 points for an average of over 21 points per game. His field goal percentage was over 50%, his free throw percentage over 80%. Tim was also a 2-time All-American. Following his college career, Tim would play in Australia in an NAIA-sponsored league. In this league, each team was permitted 2 players from the United States. The team that Tim Glass played on won the league title. When Tim returned to the United States, the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA offered him a tryout, but Tim made the choice not to go. Some of Tim's honors include induction into the Lawrence County Sports Hall of Fame, the Westminster Titans Sports Hall of Fame, and the Mohawk Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. At Westminster, he serves on the selection committee for the future Hall of Fame inductees. On a personal level, Tim married his wife Brenda in 1983. They have 3 children, Greg, Rachel, and Tim Jr. Tim has been an insurance agent for 41 years, currently owns an Erie insurance agency along with his children, and he has 3 grandchildren, Haley, Aria, and Paxton. Welcome, Tim, to Total Sports Recall. It's a pleasure to meet you and your name because it became known to me from talking to Beebe Flannery and one of my Slippery Rock State College classmates and also a friend and also a graduate of Mohawk, Tim McCoy.
Well, thank you, Harv. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, Tim, I'm going to kick off this interview by going back to something Beebe Flannery said about you, which is that you were the toughest guard he ever played against in high school. That is a high compliment coming from one of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of Pittsburgh. How do you react to that compliment?
Well, I do appreciate it. BB had said on his bio he had 40 points, 4 or 5 times, and I know one of them was against Mohawk. So that's how good he was. So.
Okay, so what was it like going up against him, though? Did you ever get the better of him, or did he get the better of you? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say I don't know if I guarded him or he guarded me, but I know he had over 40 points, and Valley beat us pretty good. So, but I know he did go to Duquesne, and followed his career a little bit at Duquesne. So.
Total Sports Recall is sponsored by Mira Artistry, where you can purchase beautiful fine art photography and abstract art. Contact Mira Artistry in regards to commissions and availability of the pieces on her site. She would like to create something special for you. For the photography and art lovers in your life, Mira Artistry has the perfect gifts for you. Visit Mira Artistry at www.miraartistry.com. That's MERAARTISTRY.com. MiraArtistry.com. So, Tim, I found a quote from you on the internet where you were quoted as saying Mohawk played Valley in the Newcastle tournament, and they had B.B. Flannery, who was pretty special. As a college player at Austin Peay University, you played against 7-footer Tree Rollins. He was all arms and legs, you said, and he was able to change the trajectory of your shots. He could take a running start and get his elbow above the rim. Later in the NBA, he put on more weight. Diehard basketball fans of NBA will remember the name Tree Rollins, as I do remember him myself. What was the experience playing against Rollins like?
Very, very different. I have never played. Up until that point, I have never played against somebody that was that tall, that was agile and could jump. And wow, I mean, I tried to bank one in from the side, and I swear if I didn't, he took 1 or 2 steps to try to block it. And if I didn't get it over the bank board, he'd have got it. So that was definitely different. I have not played against somebody at 7'2" or 7'3" that was that good. So I'm sure he played the pros for how many years? I bet you a dozen years. And, as time went on, he got bigger and everything, which probably had to. But when he was at Clemson, he was pretty slimmed down and he could jump. So.
I can't imagine standing next to somebody at 7 foot. I've never had that experience, but I can tell you that at 5'4" or 5'5", I once met Jerry Cooney in an elevator, and he's about 6'4", 6'5", somewhere around there. And I looked at him, I thought he was a giant. So somebody at 7 foot, I can't imagine.
I tell my people around here when I tell that story that when I look at him, I'd look at him right in his rear end. That's how big he was.
Oh my gosh. And can you imagine guys like Shaq and guys taller than that? Oh my gosh, Shaq's just a monster.
Yeah.
But hey, I also discovered, Tim, in my research that your son, Tim Jr., is also a basketball player, having also played at Mohawk. I'm not sure what date the bio I found was, but can you tell our listeners a little more about your son's basketball career? And did your son, Greg, also play ball?
No, Greg didn't play. Timmy played. He was probably the leading scorer at Mohawk for a year or two, and then he did play 1 year at Westminster, and then he decided not to play anymore. So, but
okay.
Yeah, he had a good high school career. I mean, he was a good player. Mm-hmm. He had the same thing as me. He was about 6'1", and he was playing underneath, and he needed to be about 6'4", 6'5", and he would have probably got some scholarship offers at different places. But it is what it is. So.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, also in my research, Tim Jr., I saw a quote from him indicating that you taught him about being competitive, and also said to him, it's like in every sport I play, football or basketball, I just hate losing so much. Part of that comes from my dad because he's such a competitor. He's always telling me losing is not an option. He actually told me that before. I like that in an athlete and the will to win, Tim. And tell our listeners a little more about that philosophy you've passed on to your children.
Well, I don't know if I got that from my dad or who my brother. They were both, when when I was real small, we would play around the house and whatever. But yeah, that's just something that was instilled in me, and I wanted to win. I'm not going to let anybody try. If they beat me, they beat me. But I'm going to try my best to beat them. So just something that's instilled in me. So I tried to instill that in my kids too. So.
Well, I also read you have had, I don't know if you're still doing it, the upper hand in the game of pig when playing against Tim Jr. Is that still the case?
Well, I just had my hip done. No, probably not. And the other thing is I've been golfing for a long time, and he's picked it up rather serious now. And I'm not sure this year that I'm going to be able to beat him all the time like I did in the past. So he may get me. He hits it about 50 yards farther than I do. So.
Wow. So how are you at the game of golf?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good player. I mean, I'm 5 or 6 handicap at a country club around here. So.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah.
I happen to live on the back end of a golf course, so down here in Jacksonville. So we're constantly getting golf balls in our backyard from guys that are slicing. So it's a funny story because we first bought this house. There was just a chain link fence separating our house and the golf course, and we used to be able to watch the golfers through the chain link fence, sitting on our back deck and watch the golfers. And, they would literally be in your backyard when they were slicing. They'd come into that little wooded area and look for their balls. We finally said this, it's funny for a while, but, that's like an invasion of privacy. So we put up a fence.
Enough is enough.
But we still get golf balls hitting the house. And I actually called the general manager golf course once, and I said, you got guys slicing balls in our yard all the time. And he goes, you know what? If they're slicing them that bad, they shouldn't be playing the game of golf. It's so kind of funny. But yeah, and actually, if they hit your house and they break a window, the golf course pays for it. So that's pretty cool. We haven't had that happen yet, though.
That's good. Cool.
So here's a question for you, Tim, which I've asked PB Flannery and other basketball interested guests that I have on my show, and now I'm going to ask your opinion. You've played in Australia, so do you believe European players are better than American players? I've contended for years that they are playing the necessary skills, the basic skills for basketball, better than most American players. What's your opinion on that?
Well, they have come a long way. I can tell you that, the European players. When I was over in Australia, they weren't very good. Okay. I mean, they were we went over there to try to teach the younger kids the game. So, they would have more of an interest on it. They all wanted to play their football, which was soccer, or, they played rugby over there too. But, what I find strange is, well, when if I would have went to a tryout with the Cavs, I mean, today you could go to a D League or somebody that's feeding them players. They didn't have any of that back then. It was either you made it or you didn't make it. A lot of people went over to Europe or wherever to play, but it wasn't really feeding them into the NBA, which is, like baseball, you have AAA and AA and single A. You didn't have that in basketball back then.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Well, do you still follow the NBA these days?
I do, but not to the point where, my son Timmy likes it a lot. I mean, he's always has it on at home, and I do like it, but I don't follow it as close as I did at one time.
And what about associations with your alma maters? Do you still have any establishments there with Austin Peay or Westminster?
No, none at Austin Peay. I don't. Not really. I mean, at Westminster, I am on the the board to see who becomes what do I want to say, the all-time teams or whatever that they have at Westminster. Yeah, it's like an alumni Hall of Fame committee that we every year we vote on players that are going to be in the Hall of Fame for Westminster and all the sports.
Okay.
So I do that at Westminster, but that's probably about the only thing that I do. My my insurance agency keeps me hopping pretty good. So, and I'll be 66 here in a week. So I'm going to try to slow down a little bit.
Excellent. Well, the last question I have for you, Tim, is did you have an NBA player you tried to emulate as a youth? And if who was, or if not, who was your favorite NBA player? And I already had asked you before, do you still follow the NBA? You kind of answered that one.
Yeah, my favorite was from UCLA, and it's Lou Alcindor, and then he changed his name to Kareem. So that hook shot was, I did follow him whenever time that, he played and I could watch it. I absolutely did. So he was my number one favorite player.
And did you try to emulate your style after
No,
anybody else in the NBA?
He was a center. I was a guard, but I just, just the way he shot that hook shot and everything, just, I don't know. That was, he was a great player. So.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with somebody else about that sky hook and just how it was indefensible. I think Bibby Flannery is one that said that they once called that the most indefensible shot in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how
automatic. As I always do, Tim, I guess get the final word. Is there anything you'd like to add or say to our listeners? And I know in our pre-interview you said you had some things you would like to talk about.
Yeah, just a couple things. I remember learning at an early age, with my brother, which we talked about a little bit. I did want to mention that. My college coach at Westminster was a Ron Galbraith, and he played at Wampum. And back in the 50s, I think they won about 3 state championships. And so they have a group of guys that get together for a breakfast once a month, which I now go to. And being that you're a Pitt guy, I'll give you a name from the past, but he always comes to the breakfast. His name is Don Hennon. I don't know if you remember him or not.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. Don, how do you spell his last name?
In the late 50s, I think 59, he was a first-team All-American at Pitt in basketball. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, he sold, I think he still has some records down there at Pitt. But just, the Wampum guys, they're so, they won 3 state championships, and their pride in Wampum is just unbelievable. You go and listen to the stories that they tell. And
so, again, it's been a pleasure having Tim Glass on the show. Tim, I appreciate your time and your patience with this podcast. And it's been a pleasure listening to your basketball career. I think it was quite successful and very, very interesting. Any final words that you might want to add?
No, just I appreciate this. This is the first time I ever done anything like this. And, we'll spread the word up here a little bit. And Harv, thank you for having me. And it was fun.
Excellent. And as I tell everybody, you're always welcome back. If you want to do another interview, I'd be more than happy to have you. So thank you for coming on, Tim. And I wish you the best of luck in your insurance company. And we'll talk again, I'm sure, soon.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. As a kid, my favorite game to play was basketball. While I was nowhere near good enough to play in an organized team, it's always been a pleasure to talk basketball with someone who has an impressive basketball background, as Tim Glass does. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on my show, Tim. You're welcome to come back anytime. For Tim Glass, this is your host, Harv Aronson. And if you haven't seen my website, please pay a visit at www.totalsportsrecall.com. And if you'd like to make any comments or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter using my handle at TSRHar59. You can also email me at the show's official email address of totalsportsrecall@gmail.com. I also have a YouTube channel, which goes by the name of this podcast. Until next weekend, when the Total Sports Recall podcast returns with another show, I would to wish everyone a wonderful week ahead.
The contents of this podcast do not represent the opinions of others and are solely the opinions of Harv Aronson based on his experience, knowledge, and research.
Hello, friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Before we take you to your favorite Sports History Network show, just want to tell you a little bit about some merch that you can pick up that represents your favorite SHN podcast. So far, there's t-shirts, coffee mugs, and even books from some of the authors that do podcasts right here on SHN. Who could buy something better than that, than have the history right from the gentleman that you hear talking about it? But we also are adding things each and every day. And where's that store, may you ask? Well, it's at sportshistorynetwork.com. Up at the top, there is the SHN merch button. Click on that. It'll take you right to the store, and you can be representing your favorite podcast and show the world that, hey, on the swag that I'm using, it's the headquarters of sports yesteryear, Sports History Network, and my favorite podcaster, the Sports History Network store. Shop there today.